Good afternoon. My name is Jessie. I'm with the Assistive Technology team here at Disability Rights New Jersey, otherwise known as ATAC, ATAC. And we are here today with Zach and Travis, who are going to introduce us to Brava. Zach and Travis, welcome. Take it away.
Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here. So we're going to take you guys through what the Brava is, how it functions, and then take you into some case studies and a little overview of the accessibility features that we have on the Brava. So first and foremost, Brava is a smart oven. It's different than other traditional ovens. A traditional oven uses heater coils to heat up. They're slow to heat up and slow to cool down, but they're good at holding radiant heat. Brava does things differently because we cook with these infrared lamps that were originally designed for the solar industry. They go from ambient to full power in less than 1 second, and that gives us some pretty unique cooking advantages. One of them is that Brava has searing power that you would never get in a traditional oven. You can actually sear steaks and other kinds of protein. And two is that each top and bottom lamp, you can see there's three on the bottom and three on the top. They're housed in these V-shaped reflectors. And what those reflectors do is focus the energy from the lamp into a very specific portion of the tray that we're cooking in. And that actually gives us three independent cooking zones. And I think Zach can tell you a little bit more about the lamps and how they operate.
Yeah, so like Travis mentioned, it's this focusing. So instead of the energy going in all directions, it's like a magnifying glass or a spotlight, focusing all of the energy directly into the food. And so it gives us the benefits of one, the searing power, like Travis mentioned, but it's in a safe way. So it's like if you have a magnifying glass that you're starting a fire with, it's only really hot right where that focus is, so it's not heating up the whole chamber. So whereas traditional ovens are topping out at like 500 degrees and you still get that blast of heat from them into the kitchen, Brava can cook at about 900 degrees while still remaining cool to touch on the outside of the oven. The other benefit of this is that these lamps are full power in just under a second, so there's no preheating time. And then when the lamps shut off, because you're not heating the whole chamber, you don't have to worry about overcooking the food because there's not the same level of ambient kind of heat in the chamber. And then the three different cooking zones, if you go back to the last slide, Travis, you can kind of see the fun little example in the bottom left corner. We can melt a stick of butter in one zone, but not the other. What that means is, like the top one, we can cook steak in one zone, potatoes in another, broccoli in the third. And basically, what it'll do is pulse each different zone independently. So each of the items are cooked kind of individually, but then coordinated so that it all comes out perfectly done at the same time. Um, the last kind of cool thing about this blend of power and precision on off is that it lets us cook much faster. So if you think of if you take a tray of broccoli and try to put that into a 900-degree pizza oven, it's going to burn on the outside before it cooks all the way through. But what we can do is hit it at 900 degrees and raise the surface temperature just to the point where it's about to burn. And then we can turn off the lamp and turn it off and turn it on and kind of maintain the surface temperature of the food just below where it starts to burn. And by maintaining that perfect surface temperature, you're basically cooking as fast as the physics will allow. And so that's kind of the cool aspects of the heating elements, but then that's all driven by software. So we've got over 8,500 recipes that are pre-built in. That's, you set up what you want it to cook and it'll cook it top, sear the top and bottom, cook it and let you know when it's ready. No preheating, no rush to get the food out at the end. Um, there's a camera inside that will actually stream what you're cooking to the phone. It still has manual mode, so you can still bake, reheat, sear, all these kinds of things. And because it's driven by software, we're kind of always updating, not just adding new recipes, but also adding new features. And that's kind of how we came here, right? We when we first started with the oven, we didn't really have a sense of what assistive technology was. We just set out originally to make cooking at home faster, easier, more consistent for people, for everyone, right? And then a few years ago, we started to hear from folks and started to realize that a lot of these features, the no preheat, the automatic shut off, the consistency and the guided recipes, that are great for everyone, for folks that have different challenges in the kitchen, they kind of take on an elevated level of importance. Um, and because we can update the software, we can lean into it and add more features and kind of tweak things to try to accommodate more different solutions. um, so first we started hearing from, I think the story that I like to tell, one of the first times we started thinking about it, we heard from our customer support about a couple that had been married 50 years. And the wife had done all of the cooking in that time, and then she had a stroke and was unable to cook, and they were ordering DoorDash every night, until their kids bought them a Brava, and the husband was able to start making home cooked meals again. And they were just thanking us. And we hadn't really anticipated older folks or aging in place scenarios when we originally launched. But as we started hearing from more of our users and kind of leaning in, we realized that even things like the camera, where older parents trying to age in place, that their kids could get a notification on their phone and even see what's cooking inside and even shut off the oven remotely if need be, and some of these kind of peace of mind elements. Um, and then about 2 years ago, year and a half ago, we noticed a bunch of sales going to a business out of Massachusetts. And because we're primarily direct to consumer, we don't sell a lot to businesses. So we reached out. It turned out they were Proven Behavior Solutions, an AT agency out of Massachusetts that works with folks with developmental disabilities, primarily with autism, trying to live independently. And they had been placing Bravas with some of their clients. And so we started working with them to understand the kind of community and the needs, and how Bravo was helping people to cook and live independently at home. And we started really leaning into it and understanding more, and we've been adding to our feature set. Um, Travis, do you want to run through the kind of?
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that we found out from proven behavior solutions pretty quickly were that number one, there was a quick learning curve because we had always supported our customers with videos on our YouTube channel and on our app, training videos of how to do it. And so they found that for those with autism or those that had difficulty with executive function, with reading, any things like that, that the training videos got them up to speed pretty quickly. The safety features improving confidence, I think, was one of the biggest things that they said because there is no open flames with Brava, and that the users were not having to worry about turning things off. And once their confidence improved in the kitchen, they started cooking at home more. And we know that if they cook at home more, they're going to save money in the long run, and they're also more likely to eat healthier foods if they're cooking their own foods at home. And the last was a pretty interesting story. One of their clients had only eaten frozen chicken nuggets and frozen French fries for like a period of 5 years, and he was reheating them in the microwave. And they placed a Brava with him, and he was immediately much happier because the Brava cooks things to crisp them, and so he was getting a higher quality. We even have a recipe program for frozen French fries and frozen chicken nuggets together. So it was very simple for him to use. And they said that they went to his apartment to encourage him to cook something else, and they made pancakes with him. It was the first thing that he had tried that was a new food in 5 years. And since that time, she's reported that he's tried about five or six other things. And so we know that it's making a really positive impact in in people's lives. And so what we did was we joined RESNA and ATIA, and we started going to conferences to learn more about the assistive technology space, and to really dig into it because we felt like we were making an impact, and we knew that because Brava's powered by software that we could make improvements and make it even more accessible for people. And so in our first conference at ATIA in 2024, We met the guys from the San Francisco Lighthouse. We're a Bay Area based company, so it's funny that we went to Orlando to meet the guys that are in our backyard. But they came up and said, "You guys, you're the digital touchscreen, which you guys can see on the top of the oven there." They said this is no good for people with blindness or visual impairments. And so they showed Zach a screen reader. We didn't even know what screen readers were at the time. And he knew right then that we had some work to do, but that it would be possible to make this accessible for the blind and the visually impaired. And so we spent about 8 months rebuilding the back end because you used to have to, you could search our app for recipes, you could send them from the Brava, or sorry, from the app to the Brava, but you would still have to go up to the touchscreen to enter some parameter information like protein thickness or doneness, things like that. What we had to do was rebuild the back end so that you could have full oven setup and control from the mobile app itself. And once we had that capability, we partnered with the Lighthouse of San Francisco to help us with the integration, design, and testing of the screen readers. And so I'm going to show you a quick, this is just a 2-minute video um, of a demo of the screen readers in action.
Hello, my name is Zach Selman. I'm the head of product at Brava.
Well, hello, my name is Fernando. I work for the Lighthouse for the Blind and Visually Impaired in San Francisco.
And as we started looking into assistive technology, we quickly realized that the least accessible aspect of the product is the touchscreen on top of the oven. So we started looking into being able to support fully controlling the oven from the phone, so that it could work for people that are blind and low vision and that can work with screen readers.
Screen readers. So it changes the behavior of your touchscreen device so that everything you touch on the screen, it will read out loud to you. And that is what enables us to navigate, especially if you're blind or have low vision. There's a lot of guesswork that goes into a cook. Using the Brava takes all the guesswork out of that. I'm going to double tap.
Grilled cheese preset.
And it opens the recipe. From here, I can customize the recipe.
Wide selected. 2 additional options available. Quantity. 1 sandwich selected.
So once my recipe has been customized, I will go ahead and send it to the Brava.
Cook was sent to your Brava. Instructions. Prepare ingredient. Use white bread. Add cheese and other fillings as desired. Then close sandwich. Spread butter on both sides of sandwich. Fill zone S on indicated tray. Place white grilled cheese on zones 2. Place the metal tray on the lower shelf and close the door. Press the green button to start cooking.
There we go. Now the cook has begun.
Notification. Brava. Cook complete.
Smells good. All right.
Grilled cheese cheers.
Grilled cheese cheers.
We're really excited to get this out and in people's hands. And this is just the beginning. We're going to keep working as hard as we can to continue to make this the best way for people to cook at home. So thank you.
Thank you.
And so that really kind of concludes the presentation. You know, what we're doing now is we know that it's not perfect, as Zach mentioned in the video. We're going to continue to optimize as we get feedback from other people and users. We just got back from a conference last week at what was it called? The Vision Serve Alliance conference in Phoenix. We'll be at the NFB conference in New Orleans in July as well.
Yeah. I can give a couple more examples of some of the kind of features and ways that we've tweaked things to try to accommodate more different use cases. Is it in a general way, you can see from the video that we just watched, the kind of experience of cooking with Brava is you find a recipe that you want to make. It will ask you some questions about your preferences, like for the grilled cheese, what kind of bread you want to use, how many sandwiches that you want to make. And as you update your selections, it will update the ingredient amounts and preparation instructions and explain how or where to set it up on the tray. And from that, you just place the cold tray into the cold oven and press the button, no preheating, and then it lets you know when it's done cooking. Beyond that, though, for some users, maybe having 8,500 recipes is overwhelming. We have what we call the favorites feature, So uh, some of the work we've done with Proven, they'll have a caregiver that can help pre-select the 10, 20, whatever recipes that somebody's using most frequently, and can populate the favorites with them so they can kind of live in that tab. Um, we have some folks that have a harder time reading. So what they've done in some situations like that is print out kind of visual recipe cards and matched the thumbnail to an image on the printouts so that it can help kind of match things up that way. We even have a feature that we call custom cooks, where you can build out and save your own recipes with all your own preferences stored, or if you have your, mom's meatloaf recipe that you want to use, you can build that out and save it. Because the Brava has not just the recipes that we built in, but it does have the ability to bake or air fry, and you can stack those. So you can have something bake at 400 for 30 minutes, and then maybe you want to melt some cheese on top. You can have it then sear, broil from the top for 1 minute, and you can save that out and just run that at the push of a button. Um, and the other cool thing about that, especially in caregiver type situations, I mentioned caregivers being able to get a notification and see what's cooking. But if someone is having trouble finding the right recipe, or they want to look in the favorites, or they want to build their own recipe or whatever, all of that can be done remotely as well, and automatically sent to the oven or added to the favorites. So working with different folks, we've been trying to come up with different additional features that we can make and kind of add them in a modular way, because everybody's different. Everybody's kind of need or use case is unique. And while we can't kind of have a bespoke solution for everyone, we're trying to make a suite of different tools that kind of can be stacked together, and maybe with a little tinkering, be kind of optimized and coordinated for different needs. And that's why we like working with, OTs and different agencies, because that helps us uh, get visibility into the different kind of use cases, and both, in terms of kind of training the trainers, we can help troubleshoot and come up with solutions because we know the product well, but it's also how we get the feedback back that then drives our future software development. And so it's kind of symbiotic that way, with the end goal of trying to support more people cooking.
So I have a few questions.
Yeah.
Uh, First, for those with not only limited mobility but balance concerns that aren't necessarily uh, there's no warning sometimes when a balance issue may come up for them. Um, I noticed during your presentation in the deck, it talked about the heating elements being safer than your typical oven, and focusing specifically on the areas of the food that was being cooked, and not necessarily being a more of an overwhelming heating situation like other appliances. However, if someone has balance difficulties, um, what is the likelihood that they could potentially injure themselves um, when accidentally touching maybe a part of the Brava at any given time, um, before, during, or after making
It's
food?
a great it's a great question. The exterior of the Brava is always safe to touch, um, even during a cook. So kind of same for blind and visually impaired folks, so that you can always orient yourself on the outside. Um, the the inside of the Brava, the lamps or the tray itself, just following a cook, is going to be hot. The trays are this very thin ceramic coated aluminum, and the interior of the oven, because it's never as hot as a traditional oven, it cools down much faster. We've actually, that's one of the things that we've heard from proven and we're working on right now is having an optional delay timer to not tell you to get the food out until it's waited for it to cool down a little bit. We don't have that in right now. We do recommend using, like, if you're going to open it right after it's done cooking, we recommend pulling the tray out with an oven mitt or a towel. That being said, if you wait 5 minutes or so, it's less likely. And like I said, the interior of the chamber is not going to be as hot as a stovetop or anything else like that. So that's still much safer. So there's some kind of ways around it. The other scenario that we've done with folks with different mobility issues, because the oven just plugs into a standard outlet and there's no special ventilation requirements, you can place the oven wherever is most kind of convenient for you. So folks in wheelchairs and things, or whatever is most ergonomic for you, you can set it on a lower space or something, and you're not trying to lean into a big oven or reach up over a countertop, because it's capable of cooking all the same things you do in both an oven or a stovetop. It's like giving you the ability to put either of those things kind of wherever is most ergonomically safe for you to access it. Um,
That's a big one we heard from wheelchair users specifically was they have what was described to us, and I can only imagine when you try to get something into or out of a traditional oven in a wheelchair, it definitely puts you off balance. And if you were to fall or something, you can essentially fall into a very hot oven. Whereas with Brava, it's so much smaller. It's only about the size of a desktop printer. And so you're typically not having, particularly if you're in a wheelchair, but even for some of these balance issues, you're not having to lean over in the same way that you would be if you were trying to put something into an oven that's sitting on the floor or even one that's up into the wall. So I think the just by its design, it's a lot safer than a traditional oven in that sense too.
yeah, and so basically, because of the ergonomics and where you place it, and because it doesn't get as hot as a traditional oven or a stovetop, while it is still hot immediately when the cook is finished, it's still going to be a little bit safer just because of size, the nature, and the lower temperatures. Uh, but if somebody still has concerns, you if you add a little bit of wait time, then it can get to the point where it's basically totally safe and you're not worried about any hot surfaces at all.
And two other questions. One, what is the cleaning process like? Especially for those who can't necessarily maybe reach the back of the oven with ease. How does that work?
Uh,
So,
you
oh,
want to take
go
that
for it.
one? Go
Sure, sure. Travis will say the same thing. I personally have never cleaned my oven. It's a little brown on the inside. I don't care. It doesn't affect cooking. The reality is that uh, because we're not using convection, we're not. It's all this radiant heat. There's not the same kind of swirl of air as there is in a traditional oven or an air fryer. So you're not swirling the grease particles and stuff in the same way, so that the exterior doesn't get as dirty, and because the chamber walls aren't as hot, um, the it doesn't bake on and kind of turn solid like it does in a traditional oven. There's certain things, like if you make a full tray of bacon or something that's really greasy, there's going to be a little bit of splatter. Um, Best practice is if there's a bunch of grease, you wait 10 minutes after a cook and wipe out excess grease. Um, I I say that's best practice. I haven't wiped anything out of my oven in a couple of years unless I've like spilled something. And you don't have any, I don't have any issues. If you really want to keep it spick and span, um, that could be a little bit harder, especially if you can't reach to the back. Um,
It's way
there are
easier than a
cleaning protocols
traditional oven, though, because the
for
chamber
sure.
is so much smaller. The other benefit of Brava is that you can put it onto its side or even turn it upside down when you're cleaning it in order to really get all the different surfaces on the inside. I don't think a lot of people realize that. And we also have cleaning videos and tutorials on, I think, on our website and on our YouTube channel. You just use a mild abrasive like Barkeeper's Friend or Astonish. Um, Wipe it out. You can get water inside there when you're kind of cleaning it out. It's not a big deal. And then just wipe it out with a paper towel. Some
And
people
the
are
tray,
very keen on
yeah, and
keeping it super clean.
the trays themselves are great because they you can just pop the trays into the dishwasher after a cook, which is super nice.
So, that sounds great. The final question I have is probably everybody's favorite and least favorite question, um, which is, what is pricing like?
There's three different packages that we really feature when we go into assistive technology providers. And so the first is the Brava starter set, which comes with the metal tray, the glass tray, and the temp sensor. That's 1,295. The next set includes all of the bakeware. It's four pieces of bakeware that are a loaf pan, a muffin pan, a square pan for cakes and brownies, and then an egg tray for poaching or frying eggs. That one's 14.95. And then the last set is 16.95. That includes all of that plus the chef's pan, which is like an enameled cast iron Dutch oven. The Brava is the same in all of them. You get the same number of recipes. There's no hidden costs or subscriptions to get the new recipes that we push to it every Tuesday or any of the software updates. And then the voiceover and all of those other accessibility features are also free and available to all Brava users.
Okay.
And like we've mentioned this because we go kind of state by state, and every state's different and all of that kind of stuff. And so we're always happy to look into other, funding paths, and we like to work with people. We know that it's pricey for folks, especially that might have fixed incomes and things like that. So we're always looking for ways to help out. We don't want to limit people that need it.
Yeah, we have 0% financing through a firm too, and so you can spread those payments out and pay as little as I think it's $53 a month.
Okay. So I am assuming that, um, the Brava probably takes the place of most all other cooking appliances.
I
Um,
think so. Yeah, I think it truly is the only kind of countertop device that can replace your stovetop, your oven, your air fryer, in most cases, the microwave, the toaster. Um,
You can, bake cookies, you can poach eggs, right? You can do things you do on a grill, like sear a steak.
there's
It's
two
it's
things that you
really
can't
versatile.
or that you shouldn't or cannot do. One is to cook a whole turkey during Thanksgiving because it's not big enough. The other is I think you need a stovetop to boil water for pasta. That's it though. Like anything else besides pasta and a whole turkey, whether that's a pizza, a hamburger, frozen foods, fresh vegetables, eggs, like everything in between, you can make in Bravo.
And the pasta is not because it can't boil water for pasta, but because we don't really recommend it, because then you're sliding a sloshing tray of boiling
Boiling water.
water into it, which is not something that we recommend, though we have people that do it. It's not something that we recommend
wow,
because,
adventurous.
I mean, it's still hot enough, it's powerful
Right.
enough, right? And we have a
Yeah.
square pan where you can do it, but it's a little sketchy.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we've got them in a number of different custom van and RV builds, and it's even in some boats too, where I mean, it has replaced their whole cooking system. It's like they only need a Brava to cook.
Yeah, we didn't mention it, but like for frozen foods or for reheating things, when you reheat leftover pizza in a microwave, it comes out kind of soggy. Reheating things in the Brava is amazing. It takes about a minute longer than it would in a microwave, but it actually crisps it up. So it's a similar experience as a microwave, versus preheating an oven for 10 minutes and then cooking it for 20. This is like 3, 4 minutes, but actually is crispy and kind of like new. Same for frozen foods. I make like dino nuggets for my kids all the time, and it's 4 minutes from a cold oven and totally comes out crispy. Like they make their own dino nuggets in it, and it's kind of great because then I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, frozen pizzas are done in under 10 minutes from a cold oven.
For fresh dough pizzas, it like I have a pizza oven at home, and I since I got my Brava, I rarely take it out because it is almost as good as a 900-degree pizza oven. It's powerful enough to get that kind of leopard spotting and caramelization, but from a cold oven, it's 9 minutes, and you don't have to worry about getting the timing right. Because I don't know if you've ever made fresh dough pizza, but it's finicky. If you don't get the timing just right, it's split seconds before it goes from underdone to perfectly done to burned. And this, you just pop it in and it stops when it's done, and you can just kind of go back to back one after the next. And so we do pizza parties on Tuesdays, and I never would have brought the pizza oven out on a schoal night
It's funny, a lot
beforehand.
of people too say, "Oh, well, I've got a family. This isn't big enough for me." And I always tell them I have 4 young kids, and you will end up using Brava. Everybody uses it a little bit differently. Some people, if they're living, if it's a couple or it's an individual living alone, they'll use the three ingredient, cook all three things at the same time all the time. We, in my home, we don't use that because we've got 6 people in my house, but we will use Brava at every single meal. I'll just allocate one portion of the meal to Brava, and it's kind of like having an automatic sous chef that can be very capable and consistent, and you just load the tray and push a button. So I'll be doing something on the stove top while Brava's roasting a whole tray of broccoli, for example. So we use it all the time at every meal. We just don't do it we don't make everything in the Brava at every meal.
Some
Uh,
people will still do everything in every meal, but just do it one like back to back because most of the cooks are sub 10 minutes or at most like 15 minutes depending on what you're cooking, and so you can still knock out 3 different cooks in half an hour, and make everything that way too. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can kind of use it, and that's kind of one of the examples of where we like to work with people and provide feedback for how to support different use cases if somebody's having a challenging time figuring out what they're trying to do for their particular need.
Great. Well, seems like a pretty comprehensive overview. Thank you both for being here.
yeah, for sure. And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us anytime. My email is just travis@brava.com, and Zach's is Zach, ZAC, at brava.com. So if you guys ever have questions or want to dig in a little bit more, we're here to help.
Thank you again.
Can
And if you
I
guys would like it,
ask
Oh,
can I ask a question? I'm sorry. My
yeah,
name is
please.
yeah, please.
I'm out on the East Coast in New Jersey. I work for a company. We care for individuals with special needs from birth through end of life.
Hmm.
Special needs schools, life skills rooms, group homes, all kinds of things.
Yep.
I'm wondering, is this video, I know it's going to be available that I would be able to share with some interested parents, possibly. And are there any locations? I know you said you sell direct. Are there any locations where we might be able to go to actually physically see one?
We need to come up with a list of this. We've been trying to get, I mean, if your organization or different organizations have like demo apartments or test kitchens and things like that, we're in a bunch already. I don't know, in New Jersey, we'd have to check. If y'all have ones, we'd love to get one in your uh test kitchens. Um we can check. I don't know that we have any locations in New Jersey. Travis, can you think of any?
I'm about 45 minutes outside of Manhattan, so I'm pretty far up north.
I'll have to double check and get back to you. We don't have many in like independent dealers. There are some in New York. At YAI has one. I think they're in Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we have a
Uh,
few in New York, I think.
Okay.
We can also get
Um,
them out. Like if you're really interested and you think it could help the people um, that you guys serve, we're happy to get one out to you to check it out.
Okay. Well, can you give me your emails again? I'm sorry, I didn't write them
Yeah,
down.
mine's just Travis, Travis at brava.com. And Zach's is ZAC at brava.com.
and we're always available to answer questions. We've got a bunch of different videos and resources for people to watch, and we're always happy to jump on a phone and answer questions for people and talk through
Okay.
questions.
Very good. Thank you very much for your time. It was very informative.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I appreciate your questions. You guys had great questions. You're a great group.
Thank you both.
And then if you
Thank
want
you.
me to, I can send this deck to you guys too, if you want. If you,
That would be great. Because
what
I'm
email
sure.
should I send it to?
So I'll put it in the chat. Let me flip over here. I'll type it in right now.
We're working on a thing right now. I didn't mention it because it's not released yet, but like for the visually impaired folks, and especially older visually impaired that maybe have lost vision later in life, they don't always have the comfort with the screen readers. So we're working on a voice controlled version. We tried like an Alexa version in the past, and Alexa's really picky about the language that you use. But some of the new AI stuff is making that a lot better so that it's more conversational. So I'm hoping that we can release a conversational chat interface this year. Um, we've got a demo working right now and it works great most of the time. It just freaks out every once in a while. So we're doing all the training to try to make it more consistent.
Awesome. And I got both those emails. Thank you guys for putting those in.
Thank you.
I'll send this deck to you guys. Feel free to share it with anybody. The video that we showed too is also on our YouTube channel.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
and you can check out, there's a ton of stuff on the YouTube channel as well. I should have
Okay.
mentioned too, guys, Sam, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Sam Seavey from The Blind Life, but he just dropped two product reviews of Brava, which you can also see on YouTube, which I would recommend checking out.
Excellent.
Thank
Excellent.
you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. And you know what? I'll actually link to the to Sam's reviews when I send you guys this deck.
Great.
Much appreciated.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the opportunity today.
Yep.
Everyone have a great day.
You
You
too.
too.
All
All
right,
right,
thanks
bye
Bye.
now.
everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.